is Stronger Than My Father with Marcus Menees.
Hello, everyone. This is Marcus Menees, the founder of Stronger Than My Father youth program here in the Nashville community. This is our podcast where we will be able to have discussions that center around fatherhood. I am your host, and I'm looking forward to having a dialogue and deep dialogue into how we can stop kids growing up without fathers. I'm very passionate about it and also energetic on trying to find solutions to help this problem. So I would like to thank my producer, Mr. Jim McCarthy, for producing my podcast and getting me out there. I'm really excited. I'm pumped. And I look forward to helping those who are struggling with fatherlessness. And I ask you to support this organization in any kind of manner. And let's get to work. So for my first podcast, I had to bring a good friend of mine who is passionate about fatherhood. I met him over a year ago, and it seemed like we just been real good friends, like we grew up as brothers. So I'm really excited to bring my friend on for my first podcast. And the personality of Mr. Harold Simpson. Welcome, man.
Thank you, Marcus. Thank you.
Well, first thing is that it was great meeting you over a year ago. It seemed like that we grew up like brothers. And when you told me your story of growing up fatherless or just having your dad, in and out, how it affected you to where you are today. I know some of these conversations are deep. It brings up old wounds. So it's tough. But my background, I grew up with a great father. I grew up with a great dad who took care of me and my two brothers and sisters. So my story is not like a lot of people's stories. So this podcast is out to understand other people's stories, understand the pain of what people went through growing up without a father. So thank you for being my guest, and I'm hoping that this dialogue can really help help you and also help me have that understanding so I can be more sensitive to certain issues, because I'm not. I'm hardcore, man. I'm hardcore like my dad taught me. He's like, and I want to be more sensitive to certain issues because I don't understand all the time. So let's dive a little deep into your story. Your age, your passion on impacting young men's lives. You have a passion for it. I know your fraternity has a passion. So let's dive into your story on how you grew up fatherless, but you was able to overcome and break that generational cycle.
Well, 43 years old from Inglewood, New Jersey. I grew up with sort of a part-time father.
Okay.
My mom was primarily mom and dad.
Mm-hmm.
Growing up, my dad stopped being a father, and I say this very much with compassion, that he stopped being a father when I was 13. My mom was basically my mom and my dad, and I had some of her brothers that ended up being a father figure for me. My dad, I get emotional about this.
That's where we're here, man.
Get emotional about it.
It's a tough topic, man.
My dad would make empty promises to me.
Mm-hmm.
Would say, "Oh, I'm going to do this for you. I'm going to be at this sporting event. I'm going to be there when you have a football game, or be there when you have a baseball game." In which, growing up, baseball games, he was there because he was the umpire. So he was primarily at the baseball games. Mm-hmm. But football games, basketball games, wasn't there.
All right, so you were telling us, and I've heard this word called empty promise. Mm-hmm. I've heard a lot of people tell me that, and I'm going to learn more about the empty promise. But let me tell you this. This guy I'm really close with told me that his dad was going to pick him up one day. And he said, "Sit by the porch, and I'm going to pick you up." And you know what that guy told me? He said, "I'm still that little kid sitting on that porch waiting on my dad to pick me up." And I was just like, wow. That hit me hard, and that happened to my wife. It happened to my wife where her father promised to pick her up, and you get your clothes ready and you excited, and it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And I don't know how tough that is. I've had people give me empty promises that made me mad, but it wasn't my father. So tell more about that story.
Saying that he's gonna come pick you up, gonna take you places, gonna be there at your games, and when you look over, there's no parent there because my mom had to work multiple jobs in order to kind of help her stay above. So looking over there and not seeing your dad at football games, but your dad is telling his friends, "Oh, my son is a good athlete. He's playing football. He's doing this," but you're not showing up at the games. Or you're saying that I could come over to your house and don't pick me up. Would tell my mom you'd have to work. And even to this day of being an adult, give you prime examples. My high school graduation, my dad showed up. But my college graduation, I went to Virginia Union University in Richmond.
Virginia U. All right.
So my father lived in Hampton, and my mother was like, "Yeah, I don't want your dad to come to your graduation. He was nothing but," and I'm just gonna call a spade a spade.
Yeah, call it.
So he was a sperm donor.
Wow, it's tough.
That why do I have to include him into an accomplishment that you made? So I said to my mother, I said, "Mom, it's my decision whether or not I want my dad to come. You really don't have any decision in this." So my mom was like, "Okay, wait, you'll invite him and he won't come." So I invited my dad. I said, "Dad, listen, bygones be bygones. Whatever's happened in the past, let's move forward." He's like, "Oh, my boss won't let me off work." I'm like, "Dad, what? Like your boss will let you off work? I'm your oldest child and graduating from college. And, you made me. I'm going off and accomplishing stuff that maybe you didn't do because as parents, you want your children to do better than you." And my dad, he only had a 6th or 7th grade education level. So you would want your children to do a little bit better than you. So my dad wasn't there. He said I couldn't get off work.
For your college graduation, that's crazy.
College graduation.
You should want to be there.
Absolutely.
Should want to be there to see that accomplishment, man. That's crazy.
So graduation comes and goes. I'm like, okay, well, I guess this is my dad. Then I have a younger sister. My dad ended up coming to her high school graduation, but didn't come to her college graduation. I went to her college graduation. My dad didn't show up to her college graduation. And she graduated from Iona College in New York.
That's a big school.
Yep. Promised her he was going to get her a car. Empty, and let's go back, Mark.
Yeah,
we talk about empty promises.
Yeah.
So my sister will tell you, if we had her up here, she'll tell you that me as her older brother was more like her father.
Because you made the promises to be there, yeah.
And I made 100 promises to my sister to make sure that I was going to be there every step of the way to help her.
Yeah.
So let's fast forward about 15, 16 years later. Or 15 years later, graduating from my master's degree. I said, let me tap into my dad again. Let's see if we can get dad to maybe come to my master's graduation. Said he can't come in. 2018, said he's not coming. I said, man, this is another hit right in the gut and the stomach that, my dad wouldn't show up and wouldn't come. So, and I think this is the last straw that kind of broke the camel's back. My wedding,
Parents gotta come to the wedding, man.
My wedding.
Gotta come to the wedding, man.
So I invited my dad. I told my wife, I said, you know, this might be my last hurrah. Try to get my dad to come. My dad didn't send the RSVP back. Said he couldn't come because he couldn't get off work. Hurt me to my heart that's one of the biggest days of my life, to have my father there, man, to even tie my bow tie, tie my tie, man, and talk to me and say, son, it'll be all right. But luckily, my mom had a village around me.
Yeah.
That was there. My uncles were there. All my uncles were there. My uncle, my mom's older brother, was there to help me tie my tie. I had some of my wife's good male friends that were there to support me. But when it was time to line up and to really go out there, I just lost it. I started crying, man, because I said, my dad is not here. And, you know, I said that it's an important day to me that I don't have my father. Luckily, one of my best of friends who passed away in August from a motorcycle accident, you know, Mark, we talked about that.
Yeah.
One of my best of friends for 35 years, put his arms around me and said, bro, it'll be all right, man. I know how your dad is. It'll be all right, man. I got your back. So, yeah, so empty promises, not having the father there. Mark, it's hard. It's very, very hard. It was very hard growing up, man.
Let me ask you this. Is it, I grew up with some anger issues, not from my dad, from just life. But let me ask you this. I've seen a lot of movies where kids will see their dad and they be ready to swing at them. Do you feel like your anger or just your relationship, if you seen them right now, you would go at them, or you think you would try to work it out? Even with all the empty promises, at your age now, do you feel like, hey, it's still trying to work it out, or you just say, hey, I want to move on? Because you'll remember all the times he said he was going to be there and he wasn't there. So would that really, you know, I just want to know, like, if you saw him come in this room right now, could you hug him, or is it like, I'm going to swing at you? Because that's part of me sometimes, man. Like sometimes I, you know, and I got to do better.
Yeah.
Than holding certain things in. And then when I see that person, I'm going to lash out at them. So this is your dad. You know, if you saw him today, how would you feel towards him right now?
So let's rewind 15 years ago.
Okay.
My sister's high school graduation. I didn't go to my sister's high school graduation. She ended up, my dad ended up going and stuff like that. So my dad ended up taking my ticket, and I was like, okay, well, she said, I wanted to let dad go. I said, okay, no problem. Because it's important for a father to be there to watch you graduate. And, you know, and I'll be at the graduation dinner. At that time, I had my ex-girlfriend. It was me, her, my dad. My sister's mom has become a stepmom to me, too.
Okay.
So that's my second mom. So we're at this Chinese buffet. That's where my sister wanted to go. Man. So we're at the Chinese buffet, and my dad is saying something. My Uncle Van is over here. My dad is saying something. And then he said something that might have just like tipped the iceberg. At that time, man, I'm 20-something years old.
You ready to fight?
You ain't going. You're not gonna say nothing to me that you ain't been here. Yeah, and you ain't gonna say nothing to me to make me feel uncomfortable.
Wow.
So he said something, and then I said to him, and we about to use the bleep.
Go ahead.
I said, "Mother, who you talking to?"
Wow.
Who you talking to? I said, I will tear you up. Like, and then my ex-girlfriend is looking, she was like, that's your father. Like, I don't care. I don't care. Yeah. So all that anger, 26 or at that time, 30-something years of anger
Yeah.
came out right then and there.
Yeah.
Or 30, well, I say about 30 some years of anger came out of that time. And, my uncle broke it up and said, you don't need to fight your dad. I was like, all right. Then I was like, whatever. So if I look at myself now at 43 and accepting Jesus Christ as my Savior and believing in and becoming a believer and a witness of God, I think I've forgave in my heart, but I don't forget.
Yeah.
And I feel like if he walked in this door now, I would give my dad a hug.
Wow.
And I would give him a hug, and I'll tell him I'll forgive him. But I don't forget. So that's the most important thing and that came over years of really growing up and maturing and seeing that, learning how to forgive, but don't forget, and learning how to move forward and helping other young men that don't have that father figure or that person that they can look up to or be that shoulder to lean on and cry on. Even with my prior position, I ain't gonna say where it was.
That's all right. It's okay.
That with my prior position, going into homes where you would see fatherless children or young men that looked like me taking on parental roles, instead of being the child and with the mom, you're more of the husband.
Wow. All right, let's go back to you mentioned empty promises, and I gave you a reference of a friend of mine, and happened to my wife as well, where the father promised to be there and wasn't there, and then the pent up emotions that's behind that. Like I said, I have an undergrad in psychology, so I'm always thinking of emotions that comes with that. And like I said, I've had empty promises by other people, but every night that I can remember, every promise my dad made for me, he did. And so let's go back to your story on empty promises and just tell me like the effects, how did it really affect you as a man in your relationship with your father?
Psychologically, it can become a childhood trauma.
Okay.
Not having your father there, not having that other parent that's there that can talk to you about, let's call a spade, or the birds and the bees, and talk to you about your first kiss, or talk to you about your first car, or talk to you about how to fix things in a home, or how do you change a light bulb, or how do you tie your shoe. All the stuff that fathers usually would want to teach their sons or teach their child. Traumatically, that took a toll on me that to this day, even in my marriage, it's still a lot of stuff that I still struggle with trying to fix, or struggle with trying to fix around my house, struggle with maybe finding the right car, or not knowing how to change the oil or change the windshield wiper stuff, liquid, not knowing how to change the headlight without having to pay somebody. These are stuff that I feel that a father should be teaching their son or even their daughter, like, to be very independent. Or even in conversations, Mark, we've had about tying a tie. Like, 43 years old, I still struggle how to tie a tie. My wife doesn't laugh at me, but she'll tell me to look at Google.
You can Google for anything now. So let me ask you this, because his thing is weird, is that when you saying all these things, I'm like, wow, my dad taught me all this stuff. Like, my dad taught me how to change the oil, how to change a fuel pump, headlight. These new cars, I ain't touching them. But I was fortunate to get those tools. So like when it's time to change I just put 2 new faucets in my master bathroom. I didn't have to call dad. He just trained me how to do this stuff, how to put a commode in. I think some of the simple things that men should know how to do. It's just sad to see that fathers don't step up and help. And I don't know the anger side. I want to kind of hit that a little bit. Like the anger that you can lash out. Like when you say you saw your father at your sister's event and you lashed out. And that was pretty much years of pent up anger.
Of course.
That you was like, you know what, this is the time to let all that out. And you probably felt good.
Oh, yeah.
As you went off on them, you felt good. But when I see, I see a lot of kids who make bad decisions. Are they making, in your honest opinion, in your profession, do you think they make bad decisions off of anger?
Yes.
Off just saying, my dad wasn't there, so no one taught me, so I'm going to go, like the things I'm seeing now is more of carjackings and car break-ins. A real father doesn't teach a child how to break in cars.
Right.
That's a learned behavior. But do you think not having that absent father allowed other things to get in kids' mind to do other things that's not right?
I think in certain circumstances where, sometimes children or kids are going to be kids and they're going to do what they want to do and not want to listen. But I think that it's important to have that father figure in the home to say, look, by you doing this, this is going to happen. By you doing this, I'm gonna put my foot in your ass.
Yeah.
If you do this.
Yeah.
The last thing, like it's important to have that father in the home to be that rational thinker. Like in my home, my mom, and I'm gonna use my mom as an example. My mom was the disciplinarian. My mom whooped my ass, Mom. Whoop. I mean, she whooped me.
Yeah.
And I had an uncle who one of her younger brothers, her younger brother that's right under her, that was super, super intimidating.
Wow.
And when he whipped you. And you felt it. And you felt it.
Yeah.
And by him being there, and he told my mom, and he'll tell you today, he's not the biggest fan of my father. By my uncle being there and being that father figure made me think about, if I get in trouble, my mom is going to call my Uncle Thomas. My Uncle Thomas is going to be on an airplane. He's going to kill me. As soon as he sees me, he's going to kill me.
Yeah.
Or if my Uncle Thomas can't get to me, my Uncle Larry, who lived in New Jersey, he'll get to me. If he can't get to me, my other uncle who live in California might get to me. So my mom had a village of people. And also I had a village of some of my fraternity brothers, which I can say on here, Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated.
All right.
That a village of men of like attainment and similar ideas that took on one of the cardinal principles is uplifting the community, taking on young men that might not have that mentorship and might not have that male that is going to take you under the wing and say, look, son, I got you. If you need to talk, I got you. If you need to go to a ball game, I got you. If you need somebody at your football game to support you, I got you. So luckily I had a bunch of people in my city that are now my fraternity brothers that took me under their wing and said, look, son, I got you.
Wow. Well, I think that one thing I looked at is that from your story, different from mine, is having somebody there. But even with all the people that supported you, do you still feel like there was an emptiness that was still missing? That one piece, you had great support, uncles, those that beat the brakes off of you when you got out of line. But then you had, because I didn't have that. I didn't think I had a lot of it from outside mom and dad. Yeah. And when my dad heard my podcast, I don't think he whooped me a ton. I got the most whoopings out of my two brothers and sisters. People ask me why I'm doing all this stuff for fatherhood and bringing more awareness. I was the one that got on my dad's last nerves. I did take a lot of whoopings, but those whoopings kept me out of jail.
exactly.
Those whoopings, man, my dad had the motto like, look, I work you hard enough where you don't get in trouble. And so when I see other kids getting in trouble, I will say, did a dad give them the right tools? Or why wasn't the dad there? And those are things where, like with your father, did you ever have that conversation like, Pop, did you grow up with your dad? Did you grow up with your father? Because usually these things are repetitive steps because you only can do what you're taught. So if your dad had empty promises, he going to carry that. If he doesn't have the right tools, he's going to put that in his son. And it's up to you to decide that whenever I have a kid, I'm going to be there for my kid, and then you repeat a good cycle. And that's kind of happened in my life where, you know, what I put into my two boys, because I'm always, you know, I'm there for them. And when I pick up my boys from school, especially my youngest, that gets me. When he runs out and said, Dad, Dad, Dad. But I wonder, I was driving one day, I wonder if I promised my boy, my boys asked me that the other day, yesterday, they said, Dad, you promise you're going to pick us up? And I said, I promise you, son, I'll be there. But what if I wasn't there? Well, my son, my youngest son, who I will worry about the most, when he started developing anger towards me where he can't stand me. And those are things I worry about all the time. So I want to try to be there as much as I can for him. But for you, did you ever talk to your dad about, did you have your father in your life? Your grandfather, have you ever met your grandfather on his side?
Yeah.
His dad?
My grandfather passed away in 1982.
Okay.
And I was born in 1978.
Okay.
So a lot of my uncles, so I have a good rapport with a lot of my family on my dad's side.
Okay.
So my uncle Van, my Uncle Melvin, God bless his soul, he lived in Petersburg and he went to Virginia State, which he's, God bless his soul, he was an alpha. He was very mad that I became an omega. So yeah. So my uncles gave me the story that when I was little, my grandfather, because I was the youngest grandchild, my grandfather used to have me with him everywhere, in the car, very proud to have me in the car with him. Used to give me these little cakes and little stuff, and he's like, yeah, that's my main man. I'm 4 years old, that's my main man. So anywhere my grandfather went that wasn't that was productive. That was productive.
Not productive.
Productive.
Yeah.
I went with my grandfather. That's according to my uncles. So my dad, I never had that conversation with him. But from hearing my uncles, my grandfather was there.
Okay.
Was there for them. And he worked very, very hard. My grandmother she worked, but she actually had retired and took care of the kids and stuff like that. And they also grew up in Virginia, and then part in Teaneck in Jersey. So my father actually lived about 10 blocks from me.
Whoa.
10.
Whoa.
He lived in Teaneck and I lived in Inglewood.
And he couldn't make 10 blocks?
10 blocks. 10 blocks.
And he just couldn't come around the corner to see his son.
Exactly.
That's tough.
Couldn't come to see me. Like, couldn't, making promises, man. I'm going to tell you the last gift I remember as a kid that I got from my dad, and this is how vivid my memory is. It was 2 gifts. He bought me, as a kid, he bought me a Nintendo.
Yeah, I had one of those. Yeah.
Yep. And he bought me we gonna laugh, a Knight Rider bike, Michael
Yeah,
Knight.
I was a Knight Rider fan. So yeah.
So he, the first time he gave it to me, he watched me ride the bike. And as those are the 2 vivid gifts that I remember that my dad bought me. And we go back to the animosity and the broken promises and what you had said about your son. I don't think that it would have one time wouldn't be the deal breaker.
Yeah.
But if you were doing it on a consistent basis, oh yeah.
He'd be mad at me.
He'd be mad at you and be like, oh, look, dad ain't trustworthy.
Yeah. That's tough.
So it's tough to grow up without your father, grow up without the empty empty promises, to grow up to have accomplishments that you've made in your life, marrying your wife, getting your master's degree, getting your bachelor's degree, and your father is not there. And your father's in the same state.
That's tough.
When I got married, he was in Virginia, but still in all, you would want to be there for your child's wedding. You would want to be there for all the big stuff.
I mean, most people can get off of work to come to stuff.
Absolutely.
I mean, I'm mad now. It didn't happen to me. Like, I would be, I just don't know what I would do if I was in that situation. I'm be perfectly honest with you, and I'm 45. I don't know if I would hit you or go. I don't know what I would do. And maybe God saw something like, I think Mark need a dad, because I did have that angry side as well. And I just wanted to be sure that I was be there for my kids. All right, let's go back. I think your story, Empty Promises, is where we kind of stayed on. The anger that I said that I struggle with from time to time, maybe because of pain, hurt, but never from my father or my mother. But for you, I know it's a lot in there. The call from your dad at the event, that's hard. And that now, at your age now, how you feel towards him. And you still have a bad taste. And I don't know if that taste will ever come out.
Nah.
It's going to always be there.
Yep.
And then whenever you have kids, I know you'll be there for your kids because you don't want your child to go through the same pain. But let me ask you this. One thing you said that it's crazy that a dad who's not there asks his son for something.
Yeah.
Tell me that story how your dad asked you for money. He ain't been there for you. He didn't go to your graduation, not your wedding. But then when he gets in a bind, now I can call you.
Yeah.
Now I can call you. Now, let me tell you what. Mark would be in the bad. I would do some bad crap.
Yeah.
I would.
Yeah.
I would go off.
Yeah.
You asked me for money, you ain't been there.
Yeah.
And I just think God knew Mark. I probably wouldn't be here talking to you if I didn't have my dad. Yeah. Because I guess like when I hear your story, I'm like sitting here in rage. Like, what if that happened to me? What would I do? But just tell me the story real quick as we wrap up.
So my dad, he had told me that he was. My dad didn't ask for financial means, but he said he was hungry, and said that he ain't got no food and all this other stuff, and and could I send him some money to get some food? So one of my younger frat brothers, lived in the area he lived in. So I called him. I was like, so-and-so, listen, I need you to, on the shield, blah, blah, blah. I need you to do something. And this is one of my young boys. So I was like, I need you to do this and do that. He said, no problem, Harold, no problem. So I called my dad. I said, Dad, I got some food coming to you. My frat brother gonna bring it to you, this and that. Oh, I don't want it. I wanted the money. I said, whoa, wait a minute.
Wow.
I said, whoa, wait a minute. So the old Harold said, what the f*** are you talking about? What are you talking about? What the fuck?
What?
So what? You don't want the food? I'm bringing you food. I'm giving you something that you asked me for without giving you the money. Oh, I wanted the money, got mad and hung up the phone. I said, oh, okay. So I was like, I called my frat brother back and said, man, my dad don't want the food. He said, what? I was at the grocery store getting the stuff for you, man.
That's messed up.
So, yeah, man, I got stories for days, man. This might be another time we should have a topic on this.
One thing I want to do with this podcast is, we know we can't solve this problem
absolutely
in this small podcast time, but if you had a male listening to it who was struggling being a dad, what would you tell him he needs to do so his child doesn't go through some of the pains you went through?
Deliver on your promises, man.
Got it.
Deliver on your promises. Be there as a mentor for your son or your daughter, whoever. Be there not just financially. be a parent. In my previous job, I've had seen parents that said, I'm a great dad, but no, are you a parent? Mm-hmm. Do you invest time into spending time with your child, or are you bought into some of the stuff that they doing, or do you get to know your child? Me and my wife, we don't have children right now, but we have my nephew.
Yeah.
And I'm 100% bought into helping my nephew become a better man. He has a father, and I want to be known, he has a father.
Yeah, yeah.
But my job was, and I told my wife that I am fully vested in making him and helping him become a strong man and a positive role model. And that's what I'm saying, that dads who are out here, this is what you need to do. Be in your child's life. Financially, it's not the biggest thing, but it's a piece. But time, patience, and love. Those are the three things: time, patience, and love.
Wow.
With your child.
That's a very key point, because I spend time, I have patience with my boys, and I love my boys to death. They're my world. And, you know, one podcast I'm going to be doing in the future is, when do you have that talk? Which my son is a teenager now. When you have it talk about the birds and the bees. And I know, you know,
of course,
I can't remember me and my dad probably had that conversation, but I can't remember. But now as a father, I'm thinking about that. And I want to be sure that I give him everything that's inside of me. And so I only have 5 years left with him. He'll be 18, and it's time for him to go. And I don't want. And one thing I don't want to do as a dad is, you know, create his path for him. I'm gonna just give him the tools and say, son, you know, I'm always gonna be here. Create your path, make great decisions, and think before you make a move. You'll make your life a lot easier. So I think, you know, your points is great. Time, patience, and what was the other one?
Love.
Love. That's the biggest one. I think love is the biggest one, man, because you know, I just wonder with your dad, did he just get that love? Did he get that from his father? So, you know, I just wondered that one. And I don't know if you ever have a conversation about that with him, just to say, you know, I don't know if that gives you some peace in your mind to see why he was absent in a lot of the big events in your life. So hoping that'll happen. But, you know, I'm not in that situation. So I'm just using this platform to bring more awareness. And when I see kids go down the wrong path, I always sit there and ask, do they have a father to lead them? And a lot of people debate me saying, you don't need a dad. The mom can do it. The mom can do it. No. And I'm not bashing any mothers. I think that you can give him as much tools as you can, but that father gives him some of the other tools, that guidance, that toughness. Like, my dad made me tough. He made me tough. So when life's adversities hit me, I know what to do. I know what to do. Instead of going to pick up a bottle or go do drugs, he was like, hey, if you got to go pick up an extra job, you got to go do it. You got to make it happen. You don't sit there in a pity party. You get tough. And so that's Marcus' exterior. It's toughness. And so, and I thank him for that. So I want to say, Harold, thank you, man, for coming on my first podcast, sharing your story. We know we're going to do another one. We got more topics and stories we got to hit.
Oh, we do.
But I want to be sure that people know that this podcast is for other people's stories, and it's also to help me with some areas in my life that I feel like I struggle with at times. But I'm thankful for the opportunity. Please go to our website, strongerthanmyfather.org, for more information about what we do. Also, subscribe to more, listen to more of our podcasts. So, Mr. Harold, thank you so much, and I look forward to chatting with you soon.
No problem.